Introducing the ultimate seat cover, Tiger Tough. Proudly made in the US of A, waterproof and backed by an unconditional warranty. Yes, you heard it right. 2 years on vehicles and a lifetime guarantee on heavy equipment. They have you covered for manufacturer defects, normal wear and tear, and even those oh shit moments. Tiger Tough covers are meticulously crafted for a perfect fit with over 30,000 pre-fit designs, ensuring they stay in place without any shifting or sliding. Plus, they're even machine washable. Don't settle for less. Get a seat cover today that's built to last. Order today at tigertough.com/dirt. Get a free logo embroidery on your first order if you use the code DIRTBAG at checkout. Once received, show us your new badass seat covers with your logo and tag us. Experience durability and quality with Tiger Tough seat covers. Toughness guaranteed.
What's up, you dirtbags? We are back in studio. We've got Mr. Luke Payne. Cheers, dude. Just getting off a little bit of sickness, I hear.
I am over the hump. I'm on, I don't even know what day it is. Probably like 2 weeks into it now. Still got a little bit of phlegm, but feeling a lot better. I didn't really have like a fever or anything, but there was days where I'm like, something's up, something's not right.
Yeah, I know we had to bump a couple episodes because you weren't feeling well. I was like, man, we got to get these caught up. And then all of a sudden I got hit hard with it too this weekend. I'm like, damn, dude, we just can't get ahead. But
You were probably calling me out and you're like, toughen up, Luke. You're fine.
come
Wait
on,
till it
dude.
hits you. I'll tell you what.
Dude, it had me bedridden for sure one day, but
Yeah,
starting to look like 2 days. But it gives us that nice radio voice.
absolutely it does. Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, cheers. Welcome back.
Yep, good to see you, man. And we are gonna jump right to it. I know we've got some new things coming. I'm just gonna say this season because it feels like a new season. So
Season
we've got
3,
a
right?
yeah, we got a massive guest. This is one we've been working on for a very long time, and it's been requested by a lot of dirtbags from all across Canada, the US, and it actually worked out that we kicked it back a few months because now we've got a lot more to talk about. So without further ado, welcome in Travis Hesketh.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's up, Travis? Thanks, man, for taking some time and chatting with us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
The first thing I noticed is the Canadian accent. I'll tell you what, I spent the week with Taylor, and it's just a bunch of A's and us, and I love it.
Process and decals.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
I kind of have like a partial one. Like my roots, I grew up, I spent a lot of time in the States. So I kind of dropped a lot of all the Canadian stuff, but it's been a minute, so I'm sure there's some stuff that I pick back up on again. But like the
Oh, it's
A's,
still there.
I don't drop that too often. But
Oh no, you can tell it's not as intense as some, but you can tell it's
yes.
still there.
Yeah,
No,
and then Luke's a little bit of a hybrid, and I'm kind of just a mutt because I've been all over. So, and for anyone listening, Travis, you probably already follow him on Instagram, but if you don't, go give him a follow right now. It's Silkstone Group. I think at the time of this recording, I think you're at like 11.1K. So maybe we'll just dive into that first. Like, I believe you started in 2020, and so very quick growth. Your company reminds me a little bit of Luke's company, actually, of just, you guys seem to have the eye for content, right? And so talk to me a little bit about how you got into that in 2020, but then also like the growth of the page since then and why it's been such a big piece of your business.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we are pretty new. We're going into our third season now.
I was gonna say first post was June 15th of 2021. It looks like.
Oh damn.
Yeah, that was pretty much the beginning right there. So this June, it's going to be our third year sort of anniversary. As far as like the whole vision for what I had, like my background was motocross, so I grew up riding dirt bikes and aspired to always make that my career, and I had some success, but mostly lessons. Busted myself up a lot, but
broken bones.
Oh yeah, broke lots of bones. Had lots of fun. Met lots of good people, and I got to travel around and do some really cool shit. But when it was time to kind of make the switch, and I decided this was the direction I wanted to go, I wanted to take a lot of that whole, flair from like the motocross industry and bring it over to the construction side. And I mean, I guess that's what you can see what we have, because it was like no one put any effort really into any branding or any marketing. And I was like, I'm going to build like a factory construction team. So it's like, we're going to be exclusive with certain brands. We're, all going to look, the part, and, make a great first impression, and try and see sort of what we can do, and essentially treat it the same way. Like, it's a marketing partnership with everything that, we're doing. It's a great opportunity for us to showcase cool products, cool services, and shit that we believe in. And, it's been working out pretty good. So, yeah, that's kind of where it all came to be.
Yeah. And Travis, I want to actually dive into that now. I had that later on my list, but since you mentioned it, let's get right into it. So, you have a very unique approach. And I think that's why I was super excited to have you on, because you don't see many excavation companies doing these type of brand deals. And so I'm super curious there's companies like Kubota, Ford, Rototilt, Diamond Mowers. Like, there's all these companies that you
Diamond
either
trailers.
yeah, Diamond Trailers you either have worked with or do work with. So I guess, how does that come about? Because I think people listening would love to have that, but how do you make it a win-win for your partners there?
Well, most people always expect something first. Like, what's in it for me? Like, what,
Yeah.
like, why would I do that? And I know that to receive, you first need to give. So, like, one of the things that I really wanted to do, and I take pride in myself, is like, when I started this company, I wanted to pick what I believe to be the best brands, and depending on what it was that I was going to do. So, like, we started, like, Kubota was the first equipment that we bought. And,
Gotcha.
for the reasons that I chose, I went with Kubota. And then any other products and stuff that we wanted to run, I wanted to essentially just pick everything that was awesome. And then I took it upon myself, and, like, we wrapped everything.
Yeah.
And I just started promoting the hell out of these brands they were like, well, who's this dude? I never asked him for shit. I just paid, the best possible deal that I could negotiate myself with the dealers that we work with. And, I started running it that way. And, like, that, I guess, is where a bit of my motocross background came in, is like, you would attract sponsors. And most people have everything backwards, where it's like, well, what will you give me?
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give, because either two things are going to happen. Either the company that I'm promoting is going to notice and, come to the plate and say, like, hey, man, we love what you're doing. And maybe on something that you've got coming down the pipeline, we can help you out a bit more, or we'll figure out a way. I said, or the other thing that's going to happen is their competitors are going to see what we're doing.
Right.
And they're going to be like, hey, man, I see you're rocking whatever. What are the chances maybe you'd be interested in this? Because they don't know. So I just thought that, I was like, this is the best way for me to get my, face in front of some people, by just doing what we're going to do, and promoting everyone involved, and kind of sharing any of the tips and tricks and secrets that I, got going on. And that's sort of how I chose to sort of model this thing. And it's been neat, because so many people now are receptive, and I can see, like, a lot of people are reaching out, and they're seeing the marketing partnerships sort of starting to form, because the end of the day, their goal is to sell product. And it's much easier to advocate for, like, a product or a service when you're a user or consumer, than the company itself. Like, their sales are nowhere near as effective as some dude on the street that's, like, saying, like, no, this shit works. I buy it on purpose. Like, it's, and the same holds true as, like, I've had some offers from quite a bit of things out there that just don't align with my vision or my standards. Like, there could be a line of product that someone's like, here, we really want you to run this. But if I don't think that it's good, even if it was free or they paid me, I'd be like, well, I can't say anything positive about it, because it's not true. So, like, it has to be something that we believe in, that I would see value to. And I'd rather pay to have the best than to get a bunch of free stuff that is just fucking garbage.
Yeah. When you came up with that plan, from the motocross background, did that have any, like, push or pull towards the services that you wanted to offer? Because that's where my head goes. Like, hey, I'm going to go buy a 97 SLV or whatever the Kubota's brand are, and I really want to get into mulching. I'm going to try to represent myself as this mulching company to try to attract, say said customers or say said possible brand deals with it as well to help grow that.
Yeah, like I basically had a very vivid plan and direction that I wanted to go. And there was certain things that really interest me. Like I spent so much time researching so many things, and I was like, mulching is sick. You know what I mean? Like I'd love to get into land clearing. It looks like it'd be just so much fun and it'd be satisfying. So it was like when I started doing my homework on, what brand of mulcher to run, and I decided and made sure the dealer that, we were going to work with could get one. And at that time, we went with FAE because to me, that seemed like one of the more high quality brands that were out there. And they spend some money on their marketing as well. So it was like one of those things where if we start to kind of, represent them well, then they may notice. So it was like that was sort of a factor. And another thing that I always look for is like end to end, where it was like if a company just has one cool product, it's kind of like, okay, well, what next when I outgrow that or want to add in addition to? Would that mean I'd have to go with a competitor? Which I'm like, I started trying to make sure that it was like, that company would have every single tool or whatever within the space, so that as we expanded as a company and we grew, I could add in addition to, so that I didn't end up with multiple brands as we were growing. So yeah, that was one of the deciding factors as well.
Hell yeah. How does Silkstone, where does that come from?
Well, that's a something everyone's like, man, that's a sick name. Where'd it come from? And to be honest, like it was born out of the ashes of a really bad decision that I made back in 2017. I made some poor decisions that got myself into trouble. And I ended up going to jail. And at that time, I had 3 young kids. I had a 3-year-old daughter. My middle was just over a year, and my newly born was 3 months old. So I kind of assumed I might have been home that night, but it was 2.5 years later. I ended up coming home from that whole university lesson, and coincidentally, it was a project that I got in myself wrapped up in, and it was called Project Silkstone. So I
The
was
project
like,
that sent you to jail was called
yep.
Project Silkstone. Okay.
So I was like, you know what? This is a turning point in my life. I spent that whole time while I was gone working on myself, like reading books. Like I read over 300 books while I was in there on like personal development and biographies and like on successful people. And I just, wrote down all my dreams and goals and aspirations and the stuff that I wanted to do and how I wanted to use my time better. And one of the things that, is shit nowadays is that like anything that happens to you will follow you because it just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So when all of this stuff came to be, and it was time to like, come up with a name for what it is that I wanted to do, I was like, man, it's actually pretty cool. And I'm like, instead of trying to hide from all that shit,
Yeah.
I'm going to embrace it. And I was like, I don't want to be the dude that people would talk about behind my back saying like, oh yeah, that guy, he got himself into a whole bunch of shit before and maybe he's a bad person or whatever. So by branding myself around it, I just basically opened the door to be like, I'm an open book. I made a mistake and I was like, my best hope is that I can turn this into like a success story. And I spent a lot of time kind of coming up with the logo and working towards building a really cool brand out of it, embracing the whole thing, and sort of letting other people that have fucked up and made some mistakes know that you can come back from stuff and do something with yourself. And, you don't have to let that define you. So I ran with it. And in the beginning, I was kind of apprehensive to like, people are either going to love it or hate it. And honestly, like everybody that I've talked to about my story and about what's happened and all the people, like they just support us more. And it's really cool to have, you know, everybody embrace that, because I lost some friends through that whole thing. There was lots of people that turned their back on me, and, you know, people I thought that would stand beside me through all that shit that I went through, they were gone. People that I thought would have left, you know, stepped up, and it just, everything happens for a reason. So I took that and I built something real positive out of it. And so far it's just sort of building momentum. And I've made commitments to everyone around me that I'm like, I promise you, everybody, there'll be nothing that I will ever do that'll land me back in anything like that ever again. So far, so good.
Can imagine just like from the 300 books that you said you read, just the knowledge that you gained from that, because I mean, in jail, there's not a whole lot to do, I'm sure, but learn and work out. So hopefully you got some good reps in and you're jacked, but
yeah, no,
cool.
I did. I used to be in phenomenal shape, like with motocross and racing. And then when we started having kids, I kind of fell apart a little bit, you know, was a little less active. So when I was in there, I was like, I just saw so many people that just look at it as like the end. And I'm like, fuck that, man. This is the beginning. No. So I worked out. I was like, I had a routine like every single day I'd follow. And I was fortunate enough that we could get books sent in. So like I was getting every cool book that I wanted off. My wife would send them in off Amazon. And, you know, I'd read like a book a day. So, cool. You know, or whatever. So it was cool. And it was neat to see the influence I had on other, you know, a few other select people in there. I got them reading and I got them training, and I got like, you know, I'm like, you know, fix your mind while you're in here. Don't look at this as just like rest time. I'm like, let's get after it. So that's what we did. And, you know, I came out of it a better person, and, you know, here we are.
It was like a big reset. Very cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good for you for not hiding and not shying away from it too. And it's just, I didn't know that too with the name. I knew a little bit about the story. So yeah, and I know I'm just super curious too of like, so Project Silkstone, if you don't mind, like talking a bit more about what that was and like how you found yourself in that situation.
Well, it turned out to be a project. There was like 22 people across a few provinces that all got arrested into this. And at that time, I didn't know any of them, but I had met one person, coincidentally, who sort of befriended me, and he proposed some opportunities to make some money. And I, you know, in the beginning, I wasn't really interested until he started talking about like how much money there was to make, and it all sounded great. And so we started to explore that, and I, you know, kind of was open to the idea, and it was for some cross-border stuff, import, export. I grew up in the Thousand Islands, so I could see New York, you know, across the border, just across the water. So they saw that as an opportunity to make some offers to me. And, you know, we started to discuss and explore them and that sort of thing. And, you know, they wanted me to bring stuff back and forth across the border for them. And in the end, I never ended up doing it, which was like a blessing for sure, because if I did, I would have done life in the US, because what they wanted me to cross the border with, it was a life sentence. So at the time I was kind of naive to, you know, what it was or what was going on, or, you know, potentially who it could hurt. And the drug that they wanted me to traffic across for them was fentanyl. And at that time, I didn't know anything about fentanyl. It was just like, hey, you're going to bring a package back and forth, and, you know, it could be once a month or whatever. And it was for $1 million is what they promised. So they're like, yeah, like we'll start with that, and it'll probably be more. And as it turned out, it was never real. It was a fabrication. So like the dude that I had met, he got himself into some trouble, I guess, and made a deal with the cops, and he became a police agent for them. So his job was to wear a wire and try and set up people and infiltrate stuff that was going on and all that sort of shit. And when I met him and, told him where I was from and like what area, and he kind of came to me with a bit of a proposal, and I started to entertain it. And in Canada, having the intent is the same as doing it.
Really?
So, it ended up just biting me in the ass. So it was a lesson learned the hard way. But at the end, I looked at it as, I'm like, man, that could have been so much fucking worse. Had I done it, what they were going to ask me to do was to bring a package that they gave me to go over to the other side into the US and give it to them. And I would have essentially been giving what I believe to be fentanyl to a DEA agent. And at that time in New York, I would have given it to him. They would have arrested me. And then I would have been doing a life sentence in New York for trafficking fentanyl. So at the last minute, I wasn't comfortable with the whole thing. I didn't do it. And 2 days later, after that whole thing, my door got kicked in. I got arrested, and I had no idea really what was going on at the time till I put it all together. And it turns out that this dude had been working with all these other people and like larger groups of like bad dudes that, are into, they were, like into some bad shit. It sucks because my name got brought in and it seemed like we were one big organization all working together or something, but it wasn't the case. And I didn't know one person.
Conversation.
Yeah. And I ended up, I met all those people after the fact, and that was an experience too. I mean, I had never been to jail before, so it was my first time, and went and made the best of it. So it's once I kind of got out, I'm like, man, it sounded like something that I was like, didn't want to pass up, like the opportunity to make a couple $1,000,000 or whatever. Even if I did it once and be like, hey, I'm good.
Nope.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that could be a pretty good bump start to get this business off the ground and stuff. And at the time I had aspirations of starting, it was actually a firewood business is what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into a large scale production firewood. And this dude kind of just talked me up, and he's like, yeah, like we can do this and you'll make a lot of money. And, I kind of got roped in, and here we are. So.
Man.
Cool
And
story.
then,
Thank you for sharing.
yeah, I appreciate that so much. And then did you say, was it 2.5 years?
I spent 2.5 years in jail. Yep.
Wow. And that was where was the jail at, in Canada?
Yeah, it was in Canada. I mean, thankfully, and like out of principle, at first they offered me 12 years. They said, yeah, we're looking to get you 12 years in jail. I'm like, for what? And I had a list of charges, which I've never read. Like, I've never Googled my name. I've never read any of the shit that's out there, but apparently I was pretty popular for a while on the news and in the papers and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, well, it sucks, but I got no interest in reading it. So at
Truth
first
comes out eventually too, which is nice.
Pardon me?
The truth comes out eventually too,
Yeah. So they asked 12 years. I'm like, absolutely not. And I had a list of charges, like the craziest charges, which I'm like, I didn't even do any of those things. Like, I got charged with entering the US without checking in, entering Canada without checking in, firearms charges, property obtained by crime, proceeds of crime, like traffic, like all this bullshit where I'm like, if you were charging me with at least the thing that I did, like, well, let's say conspiring to export or something, if that was the only charge I had, it would have been different. But then I just said no. I'm like, no, absolutely. I wouldn't take any deal. And then they were offering me, like, hey, if you take this deal, we'll let you out right away. I'm like, no, I'm not pleading guilty to anything.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, you could go and see your family. This was after like a year. So I ended up doing another 1.5 years on top of that because I was just not going to take it. I was like, no, this is entrapment. I'm like, so I fought entrapment on the whole thing. I went the distance. I asked my family, I was like, listen, I could come home tomorrow. but I'm going to have to plead guilty to some bullshit charge just so that I can get out and come back and then get all of our stuff back, because they took my wife's vehicle. They took a snowmobile that I had and all my guns, some money. And then what they were also nice enough to do in the whole process, which really has made this whole journey difficult, is they notify all the banks and any of the institutions that you were with. So they recalled every loan, every line of credit, and closed all my accounts and everything like that when this happened. So we were just kind of like, put in a really, really bad spot. And any of those banks that we were associated with at that time, they still won't even talk to me. So they don't give an explanation either. We're like, why are you doing this? They're like, overuse on your accounts or something stupid, because they wouldn't tell you. But anyway, that was just something else that made it more of a challenge and even harder to deal with and all that sort of shit. But we made it through, and that's the positive side of things.
All right, you dirtbags, we're going to take a quick break to thank one of our sponsors, Lambert Insurance Services. If you know Luke and I, you know we started this podcast to provide value to the construction industry. When we went to seek out an insurance company to work with, there's not a whole lot that are specific to the industry, and we really didn't want to work with a generalist agency, so we kind of put that on the back burner. Then we got to meet Sam Lambert. Sam is a fellow dirtbag himself. He's been in the industry for a long time, but he also started his insurance company in 2008 specifically for construction companies. So when we had that conversation, we knew that this would be the perfect match. So we started working with him, and he's been incredible. He leads first. He wants to be a resource first and an insurance agency second. They can help with provide general liability, workers' comp, commercial truck insurance, insurance for equipment, and so many more different avenues that he can provide coverage for. The great part about it is, they're licensed in most states, and they always quote through multiple companies. So that's how you know you can get a competitive rate. And even better, Sam, he's the owner. He wanted to provide his cell number just so if you have any questions, specifically from the dirtbags, you can always text him, give him a call, ask to compare plans, or just ask, what his rates would be, and then he can help direct you to the right place or answer your question from there. His number is 385-204-5799, or you can reach them at their website, which is lambert-ins.com. So reach out to him if you have any insurance questions. We're very excited about this partnership. Sam is an awesome guy, and we're just excited to continue providing value for all you dirtbags. So thank you, Lambert Insurance. Give him a text, shoot him a call, let him know that you're fans of the Dirtbags podcast. Let's get back to it.
Could also see how you could really turn that into motivation too, for like the banks not touching you and be like, all right, I don't need you. I can do this without you. I'm going to start my business without, the banks backing me, without the people that I thought were my friends behind me, so very cool story.
Yeah. I started with zero. So we were fortunate enough. We had our house. And so when I needed to come up with some money, I partnered with my dad. My dad, he's retired, but he had some good credit. And since mine was shit, because of all this stuff, he was my sort of guarantor signature on everything. And he came to the plate to help out. And we ended up, what we did, both my parents and us, we sold both of our houses, and I took all of the equity from that and just fucking threw it all on black. And that's where everyone's like, oh, where'd you come up with all the money for this? And it was like, hey, whatever they asked for a down payment, I had the money for that. And then the rest, it was all financed, all leased. And I just fucking went all in, because I'm like, I don't have a plan B. And I don't even want a plan B. I'm like, we're just going to make this work, and I'm going to prove everyone wrong. And that's sort of the journey that I'm on right now, is trying to make it all go.
I think the coolest point to that is, are you willing to go the distance, right? Are you willing to give up everything to say, yep, I'm all in on this? And that just proves that you are. There's a lot of people in business right now that I know that wouldn't do that. Not saying, people that own businesses, go sell your houses. If you have your house and you can afford to keep it, but that just is a great example of I'm in it. I don't have a plan B. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going all in. Very
Oh
cool.
yeah, we burned the ship. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, fuck
there's
yeah.
no looking back. There's no anything. I have one opportunity. I mean, hey, I didn't know what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm just learning as I go, and it's cool because people are kind of like, I'll make some mistakes, and then somebody close to me that I've met on this journey now is give you some advice, and I'm like, oh, okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And it's just like it's maybe shortening my learning curve on a lot of things, and it sucks because some people have good intentions for you too, and they want to help. So as I'm doing things, they're advising me on like, hey, like, yeah, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to do it the same as everybody's already done
Yeah.
it. I'm like, I want to be completely different. Like no one's doing it the way that I've done it. And I don't want it. Like I want to try it. And if I fail, I fail. But so far I'm making it work. It's not pretty, on one side. I mean, everyone's like, oh man, you're fucking killing it. And it's like, yeah, I'm busting my ass to try and make this work. But, at the end of the day, like I'm having fun. And I know that it can be worse because I've been in a way worse spot. I mean, like,
Yeah.
fuck, I could be in jail right now.
No.
Instead, I'm here doing good things with good people. My family's here. And, you learn to appreciate so much when shit's taken away from you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you only have so much time. And now I just fucking send it every day.
Hell yeah. Do you like, do you kind of encompass or embody that with like your core values and kind of how you like approach your team? Like, hey, I'm here to fucking go. If you're not, go somewhere else type thing. Is that, I feel like that would be kind of the charisma around your guys' like attitude when you're working.
Like I wanted to create a whole different work atmosphere too. Like I wanted to build it like a family that was
Yeah.
scalable. Like there's companies that like I've read up on and sort of studied and basically aspire to like build a culture like that they have where it's like everybody feels like they're a part of it. And that's how kind of when I was started this, it's like, this isn't mine. This is ours. I'm like, I'm just kind of steering this. I've got an idea and a vision, but it's like, man, I want everybody on board to be invested in this whole thing. And I don't mean financially, but like treat it like it's your baby, and it's like, let's do this. And, that's kind of how it started. And it's not for everyone, I guess. I mean, I've had, some people come and go and it sucks because I'm like, man, I want everyone to stay,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and it's like, if we started this together, let's fucking go the distance. But, sometimes you learn a little bit and, it sucks when you kind of part ways or people have other ideas about what they want to do or whatever. But
No.
yes, core values are very important to me. Transparency is like one of our core values. So,
Mm-hmm.
accountability is another one. Cause like through everything that I've been through, I owned everything. I've never lied about shit. Like even when I'm questioned with some of the hardest stuff, like up there on the stand in court, I told the truth, which they're like, oh, but I'm like, I know where you're going with this. You want to like lead me down some line of questioning that if I, blow you off and try and say that something wasn't true and you're going to just try and discredit me. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to own everything you asked me. So I did. And,
Yeah.
Hell
you
yeah.
know, to me, it worked out. I mean, for the overall outcome, like it would have been nice to win. And I got you know, a lesson. You know what? I never went to university. So I looked at it, I'm like, that was my schooling.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like it taught me a lot more valuable lessons than university did. It cost way more than a university education. I can tell you that.
Probably.
But, the school of hard knocks is, I don't know. I think a good thing. Like I have no regrets. Everyone's like, man, I bet you wish you didn't do that. And I was like, you know what? I'd make all the same mistakes the same over again because I'm in the best place that I've ever been right now. Like I love everything about what I have going on. Like, am I where I want to be? Like completely? No, like we're on a journey, but if I didn't make those mistakes, I'd be doing something else and it might not be as good as what I'm doing right now. And I like it. So,
Hell yeah.
and I get to meet a lot of cool people and chat with guys like you and, hopefully I can motivate some other people and sort of, get people that maybe have made some mistakes too to realize like, fuck it, man, don't let that define you. Like
It's not the end of the world.
No. And honestly, a lot of people support you after. Like everyone plays a victim. I could have just been like, oh, made a mistake. That's why my life's fucking shit. But I was like, there's no time that I'm going to do that at all. Like, so.
Hell yeah. Travis, as we were talking about your core values there, I had written this down earlier. What does this mean to you? Driven by dreams, guided by principles. How'd you get there, and why is that such a big piece of your business?
Well, I've always been a big dreamer, like always. Like from the time I was young, and well, even right now, like I could vividly describe how I would like my life to look. So I've always had like, big dreams to do big things that are always been unrealistic or all of that shit. Sometimes, doing the wrong thing, like, hey, I'm going to be the biggest fucking exporter of narcotics in Canada and I'm going to make millions of dollars. Well, that was a pretty stupid dream. That was short-lived, so stuff like that. But like what I realized is that to have big dreams, that they need to be actionable. And unless you align with certain core values or the right principles, then they're a lot less likely to be obtainable. So like a book that I read that really changed everything for me while I was away at university there was a book by Stephen Covey called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
And that just like opened my mind to then I was like, man, this is sick. Like if I look at everything through this framework in life, it's like the recipe for success. And then as I started to read other books and other documentaries and like biographies and all of that sort of shit on other successful people, they're all speaking the same language. They're all talking about like, certain principles that they live by and, don't make exceptions for things. And when I thought about what's really important to me and like things that like I wouldn't compromise, those were sort of what our guiding principles are. And I kind of wanted to use those words so that people would ask, like, what does that mean? So I could tell you. And it's like, this is shit that everybody should think about and know for themselves, because otherwise, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, think about everything. And, it's like, I believe in, like the law of attraction and the power of the universe, that like what you kind of manifest has way greater chances of coming together than if like you're not. Like when you ask someone, it's like, what do you want to be, or what do you want to do? They're like, I don't know. No shit. Well, what do you think you're going to accomplish with that attitude? Like you can change your plans as you go, but at least you should have one, and don't change it every day. And if I think about some of the stuff, and like I had notebooks and I had written down everything while I was in jail, when I crack them open right now, kind of to like go through, and I'm still on the same track that I had, set out on like 7-8 years ago now. Cause I was like, okay, cause I don't want to go from plan A to plan B to plan C to plan, you know what I mean? All these people, it's just like, man, create a plan that you think that you'd be happy with and work on that, and, make adjustments as you go, but like stay on one course, and it might lead you to something better, but like, don't always be just willing to just jump off just because it seems like there's some greener grass or anything. But
yeah. Have you seen The Secret? Because you talk about the law of attraction.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I went down every one of those rabbit holes. Like if somebody told me about a movie or a book or a fucking anything, I was all over it to like find out. And everyone shares about, it's like they just say it in different words, but anybody who's on this shit, it's like you can tell. Mm-hmm. And like, when I speak with certain people now, and they'll say a certain sentence or a phrase or a word, and I'm like, hey, I bet you read this, haven't you? They're like, yep. Mm-hmm. Or I bet you watched The Secret, or, anything like that. And it's really cool. And then you kind of find your tribe, and then all of a sudden you start aligning with these people. And like, I feel that builds your whole tribe stronger when, one of the things I thought that was awesome about like motocross to me growing up is I immediately connected with anybody that rode motocross because we shared like common, interests. And the same goes through in business when you're talking to certain people, and like, you know, you mention something and you're like, you know, this dude's, you know, he understands some things. So it's like, I have a higher probability of talking with this guy and that he's a good person. And like with what I went through and, you know, being deceived by this dude, I was just naive. Like I should have seen a lot of the signs that like that guy didn't have good intentions and he was a piece of shit. And I should have never, you know, really gone. Like there was so many signs that I should have just fucking walked away in the beginning. But I didn't think of it that way until you start to like look at life through a different framework. Now, when there's certain signs like of people's character or stuff they say, and I'm like, okay, I know where this is going, and I know what direction I'm going to go according to the way you act and the way you speak and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's super important.
It is really important. One question I kind of got on you on that, as far as like, you know, having conversations with the business owners and, you know, having conversations with people like-minded with you or as you. I had, when we went to Montana here this last week or whenever it was, 2 weeks ago, we did a lot. I shouldn't say we did a lot of like roundtables, but we had a lot of like business conversations. And what I found really cool is, I mean, you have, you know, the guy owned a $30 million excavation company and one guy owned $1.5 million excavation, or, you know, they did that in revenue wise, but all of the issues everybody has just on a little bit different scales.
It's the same. There's just more zeros.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Too. Like there's days where I'm like, man, like I'm fucked. Like what I'm going through, I'm just like, this is terrible. And I'll talk to someone else that is like, I look at as where I'm aspiring to go down on that path. And they're like, dude, we're doing the same thing. We just got a few more zeros behind. Like we have the same problem. They're just bigger, but it's the same. And then once you kind of realize that it's like, it's all related to your situation, then, you know, it's easier to cope with. It's easier to deal with. It's like, you know, when you're struggling to pay a bill and you're like, oh my God, like that's a pretty hefty one. And then you talk to someone else and they're like, that's baby money. You know what I mean? Like I think
makes
about
your problem seems minuscule and you're like, oh, well, if you can get, you know, by with it, so can I then, you know, and people just figure it out.
Exactly. And it's like that, there's that saying, success leaves clues and stuff, where I'm like, I look at certain people and I like to meet everybody that I can. And, you know, and I'll meet like an owner of a company sometime and I'll be like, no shit. Like if you can do this, there's no reason that I can't. Right. So it's just like, it's great. Cause it's like, they're not superheroes. It's like, they just put in the time every day. You know what I mean? And they don't quit. They don't give up. Like most people, when something gets hard, they're like, oh, fuck. Oh, you know, I failed. I'm like, you only fail when you quit.
Correct.
You know, and I'm like, I'll quit when I'm dead, which has happened almost a couple times, but
yeah,
you know, but then by then I hope that I got these 3 little sweet angels that'll take over my legacy and do something cool with it.
Hell yeah. That's good. Do you want to have a family business? Sorry, Luke.
No, that was my question. Are they working in the business? And then do you want to have a family business?
Oh yeah. Like we homeschool all our kids. That's going to be a whole other topic that we could go down with all of the great things that our world is trying to teach all of the young kids right now that I wasn't having it. I would end back up in jail if my kids went to school with all this bullshit that's going on. But no, so they're pumped. They're my biggest supporters. And like, that was one of the things too, when you talk to like business owners and stuff, they're like, man, my family, you know, like I wasn't there very much and I had to sacrifice so much and all of this sort of stuff so that you could kind of create something. And I'm like, how in the fuck can we make this work so that it's not like that? Well, my kids are a part of everything. Like they come on job sites and like they're, you know, they're a part of it. They're in machines, they're running stuff. We're teaching them about business. They're involved in every conversation. When we got team meetings and stuff, like they're a part of it all. And so far so good. We get nothing but compliments on them. And when I ask them like, yeah, like, what do you want to do when you're older? They're like, we just want to run Silkstone. So it's like some aspect of the company they're all pumped on, whether it's the social media, whether it's like whatever it is. It's just like, it's just neat because they're growing up knowing as of right now what they would like to do. And it's cool because I'm like, well, I'm building this for you guys. I'll take it as far as I can, and then it's going to be up to you. So that's pretty neat. And they're all girls.
Hell yeah. Women in construction, baby.
Dude, I
Yeah.
was just gonna say it's Women in Construction Week, so shout out to all the women in construction. And I mean, like you said, Travis, they're all girls, but there's no reason they're not. They are fully capable to take over and to run this show and run the company, and it's really cool to see that.
No, I agree. And like, believe me, I was only going to have boys. I decided when I was having kids, but I guess God had other plans because
Yeah.
I'm like, the first one was a girl. I'm like, all right, next one's another girl. And then the next one, I'm like, oh man.
Third time's a charm. Nope.
Yeah.
And
Like,
then you
okay.
try for four and end up with triplets.
No,
Ooh.
I signed off after that. I was like, no, we're good. Three is it. I'm done. And I got fixed. So
Hell yeah. Good for you. Three is an
yeah,
awesome number.
no, it's cool.
Yep. Awesome. Well, hell
Fourth
yeah.
is,
Love it. I love it. Well, Travis, I thank you for being vulnerable with us on, kind of your journey from how it started to, what triggered it to where you are now. I mean, definitely dove deep, and that's what we kind of want people to do on this podcast is tell their stories, but don't stay surface level. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
And
there's a lot more to it. I could go into a lot more details, and like that could be like a whole other 20 episodes of some of the shit that, like the finer details of that. But I figured it would just be, give you guys and everyone that's watching or listening an understanding about where it came to be. Because everyone's like, yeah, what's with the name? Like, how'd you come up with that? And I'm like,
Take a
that
seat.
one's gonna be, yeah. I was kind of waiting a little bit. Like, if I think too prematurely, I didn't want to give people like, some opinion
Yeah.
because it was too soon. Because it's like people always want to be a part of something that's awesome and that's it's proven, but they don't want to be a part of the process. And that's why I was like, the further I can get with this company and getting it to be something, when I do get to tell it, everyone will be like, yeah, that's awesome, rather than nah, fuck that guy. So
100%.
I put in well, I shouldn't say it, but like I've put in some time that at least people could have a better understanding of what type of a person that I am. And I don't have bad intentions. I never did. I was
yeah.
just a bit of a thrill seeker, risk taker. And, like for financial gain, I was kind of like, yeah, man, I'll fucking do that, but not anymore.
Good for you.
Yeah, and it can happen to anyone too. And it's how you react and take care of it after the fact too, and like how you deal with it. And so, yeah, because like you said, you could play the victim card, and that's gonna be your life for here on out. But I mean, you've taken the gratitude route and just appreciating that you are out of jail and you do have this business and you are gonna make it work, and just knowing what you have and the people around you, the people that did stay, the people that did hang around, and the people that are rolling with you, it makes them even more special, I would say.
I agree.
It's definitely a neat experience, and you make a lot of new friends along the way. And when they hear, they're like, man, that's awesome. And then it's kind of like they all want to be a part of the whole story and the journey. And I'm thankful for that too, because I thank our guys every day. Like anybody that's in my life, like I thank all of the guys that work for us and with us, every single day for sticking around and for, learning with me. Because like I said, I'm trying to just figure it all out, and I'm pretty much failing forward. I like to say,
Love it.
make lots of mistakes, and it's like some people, like I guess would rather not go through that, and it sucks to see some of them go, but it just opens the door for new ones.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and Travis, last question I've got. This one just popped into my head here. So, I love on your website how you name your entire fleet. So as an example, we've got Ironhide, Black Widow, MacGyver, Dig and Do. So, what's the next one gonna be, and what's the name?
Well, there is some new stuff in the works for sure. That I'm excited to share. We kind of try and keep stuff a little bit tight-lipped to
Yep.
hype it up and bring it out. But like, I don't know. It's kind of like we didn't really have any concrete names until it's like you have something, and then it's kind of like something might happen or something. But then, yeah, there'll be some cool name that we'll play off of, instead of like, yeah, that's machine number 1, 2, or whatever. It's like, kind of like that. And like, there's another dude up our way that, you know, he named one of his machines, I think the Black Pearl. So I was like, yeah, I loved it.
That's sweet.
It's kind of neat to see that people are doing that and becoming, you know, more personable with things. And I don't know if you can hear that, but my dog's going off right now.
No
It's
worries.
all good.
No worries, man. Well, that's cool. I mean, fun to personalize things like that. Yeah, again, just thank you again for taking some time and chatting with us and being vulnerable and telling us your story, man.
Hey, no problem. I mean, I'm here to chat as long as you guys want to. I don't have anything to do tonight. So
Absolutely.
anytime you wanted to chat more about things, and I mean, I guess that whole part of the story took up a little bit more time than we were probably hoping for, but
No, I was super interesting on my end. It was really fun to listen to.
Yeah, that was perfect. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, I think just getting another podcast scheduled potentially to dive in deep into some of the nitty gritty of the stories too. And I know I really think that this episode is going to do very well because it's so relatable for a lot of people. Maybe not the exact situation, of course, but just some of the hardships that you've gone through, but then how you've bounced back on the other side and how focused you are in business. I think it's going to hit a lot of people in the right spot there.
Yep.
Well, that was what my hopes are, is that, you know, I could kind of inspire some other people and get them to, you know, do things a little bit differently and don't play the victim and just go after it, and you can make it work.
Well,
you know, and
hell
you don't
yeah.
always need to listen to some of the naysayers.
Mhm.
And that's hard because, you know, like there was so many times people are telling me like their opinion about what to do. And I just sit there and I'd look and be like, either would I trade places with that person giving me that advice? And if the answer was no, I was kind of like, yeah, I appreciate your opinion, but I'm going to just kind of do it my way. But then, or the other thing, it's just like, you know, if you haven't done it, then your opinion is just your opinion. I mean, we're both in the same boat, except I'm just willing to try. Like, and I've never played anything safe. So I'm like, well, I'm going to try. I'd rather try and fail than just be like, man, what if?
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
it's kind of working. And like everyone, even as far as our branding goes, they're like, man, why you waste all this money on like putting wraps and stuff on there? And I'm like, well, all the guys in this industry that are doing well, what do they all have in common? And usually they're second, third, fourth generation. Like that company's been around for like 15, 20, 30, 50, 75 years, or whatever it is. I'm like, how do I fast track that? How do you build a reputation fast? And I was like, the only way is to be very transparent and put ourselves out there and get noticed, make a great first impression. So I was like, no one else is doing it like this. So I'm like, let's just brand everything heavy and you know, as long as it's tasteful at the same time. And you know, people are going to start noticing and talking, and it's been cool because not only like, you know, a lot of outside people, like potential customers or other contractors that might want to work with us, but what it does is it seems to be attracting a lot of people in the industry that are like, hey man, are you hiring?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they see that we've got, you know, some cool stuff, that we have fun, and that the projects that we're doing are kind of interesting. So it's like, that's been a big takeaway, because something that I knew would be difficult would be, you know, finding good guys when we started, because anybody that's worth a shit is already somewhere. They're already working. So do you want to be that guy who puts a bullseye on his back and then just go out and start head hunting? Like, find a guy that's with another company and be like, hey man, like I want you to come over this way. I'll just pay you more money or whatever. Well, the good people, they don't care about that. They're loyal. So what's going to happen is he's just going to go to his boss or whatever and be like, hey man, like Silkstone like tried to hire me away. They're like, you know, what? Okay, well, let's sink that dude. So I didn't want any of that. Like, I've never gone after anybody. I meet good people and I'm like, hey, if you're ever looking for a spot, like hit me up. And now it's cool because people are just constantly like reaching out, and they're like, hey, if you're ever needing someone to fill a seat. And so like, it's cool because we've got a big stack of, you know, potential new hires and stuff like that. And I hope it doesn't stop, because I'd like to grow this thing as big as we possibly can as the work sort of supports it. And It's nice being able to, look through as many people as possible and pick the right fit. And ultimately, my goal was to attract new people in the industry. Like,
Yeah.
if it's not cool, people are trying to do other shit all the time, right? So it's like, if you can make it look fun and make it look, like something that younger generations are going to want to get into. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen so many people are like, the trades are losing. So it's like, how do you get people in here? Well, show them that, you can have a good time. You can have some cool shit. And I mean, I'm going to invest every dollar back into this thing for the unforeseeable future. And, equipment, and then even fun stuff. Like, do we need to have fancy trucks or anything? No, but it sure is fun. And it definitely attracts some guys that like the same shit. So, like, that was something else that's important too, is creating a very good culture and foundation to attract the right people. And, when everyone's happy and vibing together, I think you can do great things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is the Ford Lightning still kicking?
Yep. We still have that.
Right on. So you got like a charging port at the shop or at home, or where do you do that?
Yeah, at the house we've got one. So basically it charges every night, plug it in and rip it around during the day, sort of thing. It's a sick truck. And we had like the first one around, which was
Yeah.
intentional, so that we could it was a great conversation starter. Everyone's like, "Man, what is that? Like, what's going on? Like, tell me about it." So it was always kind of an opportunity, to talk about stuff. And we've branded and wrapped everything that we have, right? So
Yeah.
it stands out pretty good.
Yeah. I
Sweet.
suppose it's a good talking point when you pop the hood and show them what's under there.
Oh yeah, nothing. She's empty.
Nothing.
That's the frunk.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
no, it's cool. We're building something right now that's pretty neat too. So I'm gonna look forward to sharing that in a little while.
Looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah. So yeah, for anyone listening, obviously follow along on social media, Silkstone Group. 'Cause we got a lot of updates coming, it sounds like. So a lot of new equipment, partnerships, probably just new things always coming down. And Travis, one thing I also wrote down that I love, it always seems like you have something in the fire. And I think other brands love to see that too. Like, you're always kind of up to something, or you're always on your next move and like working with, the latest and greatest and the new technology. And so I think it's great to always have something in the fire, always going ahead a little bit, with all that, and just adapting and innovating your company.
Yeah, that I was always just trying to find competitive edge, or hey, what's something that there's not a lot of people doing, and
Yeah.
it's like, find some new neat technology or something that's cool that you can bring. Like, that always is what's got me like scouring the internet, and I'm on Instagram or on YouTube, and I'm always looking for something cool. And I'll see someone, it could be in another country, I'll be like, man, I got to get one of those. I'm like, so then I'm working towards getting some new piece of equipment or whatever that, is kind of standoutish and be kind of neat to bring here. So that I have a lot of fun with.
Hell yeah.
But
I love
Sweet.
it.
Well, Luke, I think that was a wrap on this Dirtbags episode. Travis, thank you again so much for being here. Thank you for diving in with us. We're just so excited to get this out there and get this launched, and can't wait to see the new updates coming out as well, and just continue following along with the Silkstone journey.
That's awesome. No, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to chat with you guys anytime. And I do
Absolutely.
look forward to like meeting up in person when that time comes.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, I can't get into your country unless
We'll
I
come
was
to you.
and walk through the Mexican border with the rest of the immigrants coming in, but they won't let us Canadians just drive through the border yet. So
That's weird how that works.
I'm hoping to have all my shit straightened around so that I can, go down there, and I'd like to be a part of Con Expo when the next one comes.
Hell yeah. Oh, we look forward to seeing you, and hopefully maybe we'll see you before. Who knows? So
Well, you're more than welcome to come up here anytime and be a part of it. Like this summer, hopefully we got some cool things going on. And actually, we're planning a really cool event this fall. So maybe that might be something that we can chat about. But
yeah.
all the products and all the brands that we sort of utilize, and we're going to do a really cool standalone event that we'd like to make an annual thing here at on our farm. So we'll have like an excavator skills sort of competition, and everyone can come out and try like whatever the latest and greatest and rototilt stuff and some Lee Bear things and Kubota. And we're going to have a lot of really neat contests and have some bands and probably like, you know, a freestyle show or something and make it a fun weekend. So that's going to be in September. So I'll
Very
be
cool.
excited to share more details with that. And it'd be cool to have you guys up for it. And
Hell yeah, man.
Dude,
fun.
absolutely. Let us know when you launch the details. And yeah, I know I'd be more than willing to make a trip up there. So
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, you're more than welcome anytime.
sweet.
Sweet.
All right,
man.
boys. Great
Thanks for your time.
podcast. We'll be talking to you soon here.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Travis.